relates this hadith of leaving what doesn't concern you. So just a few things that I think are very important. One of the things is to know what concerns you. It's very important to know what concerns you. And it's a wisdom to know that. What's your business and what's not your business. You know, people say, mind your own business. Right? Mind your own business. And what do we call people that don't mind their own business? A busybody. Right? They're busy with other people's business. So, one of the things that Muslims are totally preoccupied with now is rulers. They're obsessed with them. That's all they talk about. Sidi Mayyara, in his book, Sharh al-Kabir ala Ibn Ashir, he says, وَالْخَوْضُ فِي الْأَحْكَامِ انشغال بما لا يعني العبد. Speaking about rulers is being preoccupied with things that are of no concern for you. Now, people will argue, well, that was then when you had al-hakim wal-mahkum, they were the rulers and you're the subjects, and now we're in democracies where Muslims are supposed to be occupied with... Now, that's true to a certain degree. I would agree with that. But what are you doing? Like, are you doing voter registration? Are you trying to educate people about, or are you just chewing the fat? Or are you complaining, just whining about how bad things are or whatever? And then, like, you don't know. People say, oh, the UAE supported the coup. Where did you get that information? Does it follow the أولها صحيح وهو ما اتصل إسناده ولم يشذ أو يعل يرويه عدل ضابط عن مثله معتمد في ضبطه ونقله. I mean, that's our criteria for something that's sound. People now, they report everything they read in New York Times like it's Sahih al-Bukhari. And then they challenge Sahih al-Bukhari. That's the amazing thing. We've got modern Muslims that will assert what's written, even though we know that there's so much propaganda in the media. We know that. I mean, for those people, there was that film about Iran. What was that film called where they, about the, getting those, Argo, right? At the end of that film, they showed all the news, the first ones, it was all phony. And it was all provided to the news services. And so people thought that was just, well, that's CNN. CNN said so. And it was all just propaganda. It's a complete operation. So people read about the past and they think, oh, well, it's not the same now. That was then. You think human nature has changed? You don't think they assassinate people now? Like, you think they did that in Shakespeare's time and they don't do that now? People are bumped off. All that stuff still happens. But if we're going to spin conspiracy theories, I don't know. I don't have privy. Like, people are saying, you know, now, oh, this is absurd, this, that, or the other. What's your proof? What evidence do you have? You don't have a mukhabara. I don't have an intelligence service. Well, I kind of do. Yeah, but it's very small. We have a very narrow thing, right? But I don't have a mukhabarat. I don't know what the CIA knows or what Turkish intelligence knows or what UAE intelligence knows. I'm not privy to those conversations. And one of the people that helped me understand this at a very deep level was Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya, because he was a vice president of a country. It's a small country, but if you've run a business, trust me, it doesn't matter if you have a small business or a big business, the same principles exist. So if you ran a small country, you understand how countries run and work. But he will always say that. He'll say, we don't know what they know. We don't know what they know. We didn't get the dossier. We didn't hear the briefing. Every morning, there's this man who's the NSA head. He comes in and he briefs the president about what the latest intelligence says. And President Erdogan gets the same thing here. And Morsi gets, Sisi gets the same thing there. This is the world we live in. The Prophet had his people also. Don't think he didn't have his people. He had Mus'ab ibn Umair. He sent him to Medina. He learned everything about Medina. When the Prophet came, he was there. This is so-and-so. He's so-and-so. He has a lot of influence. The Prophet's teaching how to... Al-harbu khud'a. The Prophet said war is deception. When he was going south, he would leave Medina going north because he knew that the spies would go and tell the other people, right? So this is the nature of the world. If you're in power, that's your business. If you're not in power, it's none of your business. Don't waste your lives. Then, even when you're in power, and this is one of the things that ulama really don't understand anymore. A lot of the ulama don't understand this. Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayy says you have ta'yeen, you have tabyin, ta'yeen, and tamkeen. Tabyin is the role of the ulama. Yubayyin al-hukm. They're there to tell what the legal ruling is. This is what we call the Supreme Court in America. The Supreme Court gives the ruling. And then you have ta'yeen. These are the judiciary people. They're the people responsible for yu'ayyan. And so, for instance, the legal minds say it's illegal to do this, and so Code Section 4, Code 3, Section 4 says that if you do this, it's illegal. And so that's the tabyin. So the law is clear. That's what the faqih knows. But then you have the qadi. So the person's brought before the judge or the jury, depending on what type of system you have. We have a prosecutorial, you have inquisitional, right? A lot of, in Turkey they have inquisitional, like Germany has inquisitional. So you have different systems. Both of them are valid and they're both accepted even in democratic countries. So you have places where you have a jury and you have other places where you have judges. Like Germany, they have a judge. They don't have a jury system. The Anglo-Saxon tradition is a jury system. In the Maliki fiqh, the jury is when you don't have qualified judges. And in fact, the Malikis say you take 12 notables, right? So if you're wondering where the jury system came from, because they don't know where it came from. But 12 is a jama'ah, and yadullah ma'al jama'ah. You know, in Maliki madhab, 12 is considered a jama'ah, a group, and when you have 12, God's with you. And so if 12 people judge, then they won't make a mistake. That was the idea behind the Maliki position, which Imam al-Qarafi mentions. But anyway, you have different systems of justice. So when you have a judge, the judge is ta'yin. So yu'ayyan. So once the hukm has come and then he says he's guilty, he's not guilty, now comes tamkeen. This is the role of the hakim. It's not the role of the judge. It's not the role of the jurist. It's the role of the ruler. And they're the ones yumekkin min tanfidh al-hukm. So they will do the actual implementation of the ruling. Now, John Marshall, who knows who John Marshall was? Australians are exempt from this. Yeah, he was one of the first great Chief Justice of America. He's a brilliant jurist. When the Cherokee brought their case before, it went to the Supreme Court. And John Marshall judged for the Cherokee Nation, that they had rights to defend their lands against whites because they killed some settlers that had come into their lands. And so he actually judged for them. Andrew Jackson, so that's ta'yin. That's tabyin and ta'yin. Andrew Jackson is tamkeen. He was the president at the time. What did he say? John Marshall has declared his verdict. Now let's see him implement it. So he just ignored it. And that happens. Sometimes they just ignore what the judge says. And that's what he did. Andrew Jackson did that. That's American history. But that's not for John Marshall now to go out and say, I'm going to implement it. No, it's not for the faqih. Once you declare what the ruling is to the ruler, it's not for you, if he doesn't implement it, to overthrow him. It's not for you to do that, because each person has his role. And Allah has made this world a world in which everybody has their place. مَا مِنَّا إِلَّا لَهُ مَقَامٌ مَعْلُومٌ. Everybody has their place. And you have to know your place. And this is where the modern world has created massive confusion, because nobody knows their place anymore. And so it's just anarchy now. And then it's not going to make you happy. It's not going to make you happy. And this is why metaphysics is so important, because if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. And nobody wants to do the real work. They want to change the world without changing themselves. That will never be. It will never be. There are 13 years in Mecca that prepare them for Medina. 13 years of preparation. They didn't go straight to the city-state. They had to prepare themselves. And what does Allah say after الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنَ اللَّغْوِ هُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ? They leave what doesn't concern them. Huh? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. That's a Meccan verse. Abu Muslim says the zakat there is not paying your zakat, it's purifying yourself. Right? Because zakat, right? خَيْرًا مِنْهُ zakatan, more pure than him. Zakat in Arabic means tahara and nazaha. So what are they doing? They're purifying themselves. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Allah didn't say قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّى الْعَالَمِ. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ غَيَّرَ الدُّنْيَا. In fact, Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Look at it's right there. You want to see reality? It's right there. Allah will not change the conditions of a people until they change what's in themselves. What does that mean? That means that if you're preoccupied with God's job, you're not doing your job. You're preoccupied with what doesn't concern you, and so God leaves you to yourself. Because you're taking God's job upon yourself. It's God's job to change your conditions. It's your job to change yourself. But if you're not doing your job, don't expect God to do what He promised if you do what He told you to do. If you're not doing it, don't expect Him to do the other without you doing, because He said, Inna Allah, that's ta'keed, that's to let you know, verily, surely, without a doubt, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin. Allah will not change what biqawmin, what's with a people, the conditions of a people, hatta, until yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Nobody wants to do that work. Nobody wants to build from the bottom up. What did Martin Luther King say in the Birmingham jail? He said, if you want to change, you have to do certain things before you can demand from the tyrant. And one of them, he said, you have to look into yourself, and if you have any of those qualities that you want to get rid of in the tyrant, you have to do self-purification, because you have no moral capital. Big hadith. Big hadith.